Hey everybody, welcome to Tifinity TV. If you're new here, please go ahead and smash that like button and definitely subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you can get all of the latest videos and recaps as we dive right into Grownish Season 4, Episode 11. It opens with Vivek and Anna is telling him, listen, we had a one-night stand. It happened one time. We will never talk about this again. And as she leaves, she's leaving on a scooter, and a car drives up next to her, and the driver is not paying attention. And as she's going along, she sees this guy not paying attention, and boom, knocks her right off of the scooter and drives away. And she ends up in the hospital. Of course, her friends, her homies are coming to check on her. And she's like, I'm just glad that, I'm okay. And she said, well, I just got a few scratches, and they're just like, wow. And then Jazz just opens it right on up. Boom. So you had relations with Vivek? And she's like, how do you know this? And Jazz is like, what? It happened, right? So let's talk about it. And Anna is furious. Look at her face. She's like, how do these people know about this situation? And he breaks it down to him and tells him, like, look, this is what happened. They were all there. They were asking me about it. I tried to be discreet, but they figured it out anyway. But we all know that he just went on and spilled the beans. So they changed the subject, and Nomi's asking, did they find a suspect? Did they find the person that did it? And in pure Zoe fashion, she turns it around on her and starts talking about how Aaron broke up with her. And they are just like, really, Zoe? How you gonna turn this around and make this about you right now? Anna can't even believe it. She's looking at Zoe and her friends like, did she just really do that? So they pull her to the side and they tell her, look, you are turning this around on yourself. And she's like, no, I'm just trying to get her mind off of things. And they're like, no, you need to be here for her. Tell her that you're here for her. And so we move on to Renard, a new student, a new freshman at Cal U, and he walks into Aaron's class and breaks down to him that he's been following his career since high school and he really wants to be a part of his class. He's heard so much about him. He even bought the jumpsuit from his prison protest from last season, and he's just super hyped and geeked. And so he asked him to add him to his class, and of course he does it. But he's just like still kind of creeped out by the guy because he's got the same bag as him, and and he kind of came into his class a little late. But Renard tells him he's gonna change his life, and Aaron's like, am I really? So then we go on to Doug as he visits Kiela, and Kiela opens the door and she's like, oh my God, what happened to you? She sees the big shiner on his face, and Doug tells her that her brother Luca got told the truth and he took it out on his face. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And so he's like, it's okay, it's cool, but now we can be a couple and go hang out. So I want to take you out. And she goes, well, I have some other plans or whatever. And he's like, what, you got a date or something? And so she kind of breaks it down to him that, hey, you kind of left it very casual. Didn't make it seem like we were supposed to be an item. So how was I supposed to know? I went on and made plans with someone else since you didn't want to, let Luca know, my brother know, that we were seeing each other. And so he kind of, got in his feelings about that. And but I mean, at the end of the day, he kind of understood that it is what it is, so he didn't want to pressure her. He just went on ahead and left. But as you can see, he's definitely in his feelings about that. So then we move on to Anna going to the police station to identify the undocumented 17-year-old who, doesn't have a record or anything like that. And so he just wants her to identify him. So he turns the screen around and she sees him. And now that she knows that this young guy is undocumented, she doesn't really know if she wants to say whether or not he's the one that did it to her. I mean, all kinds of thoughts run through her mind. She doesn't know what to say. I mean, she thinks about it. She recalls the incident. I mean, it was a traumatic experience for her, and of course she wants somebody to pay for it. But now, knowing what she knows, can she do it? Anna gets home, and of course her roommates are asking a million questions, and they ask her what happened. Did they get the guy? And she says, yeah, it was definitely him. And so they're like, cool, yeah, that's good, because he could have killed you. He's a monster. And Anna's like, well, not necessarily. He's actually a 17-year-old undocumented person, and he could get deported if I tell on him. So I told the police that I needed more time to think about it. And Nomi says, oh, poor kid, you definitely did the right thing by not reporting him. And Jazz is like, wait a minute, weren't you the one that just called him a monster? But now that he's an undocumented person and a 17-year-old, he doesn't have to suffer any consequences. She's like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, even though he's a young guy, he's a young boy without a record, he still created this incident for you. He still should be held accountable for what he did. And so Anna's like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, if I tell on him, he could go away, and I don't want to be responsible for that, but I do want him to suffer the consequences for his actions. And so they're like, okay, well, we understand where you're coming from on that. And she's just like, I don't know what to do. It's all up to me what happens to this kid, and I'm really scared. I don't want to be the person that makes that decision and changes life forever. So then we move on to Doug and Aaron sitting on the couch like lumps on a log, all in their feelings, thinking about their situations. Doug's thinking about Kiela, and Aaron is thinking about the freshman Reynard, who has put him up on a pedestal, and he doesn't know if he can live up to it. And Vivek actually becomes like a therapist to them. He actually asks them what's going on, and they spill his guts to him. And Doug is explaining to him, hey, I didn't expect this girl to move on so fast. Like, she's going out on dates and everything after I get socked in the face by Luca, and I tell him the truth about us, and I get socked in the face. Like, I didn't expect that. Vivek says, oh, so you really want to be with her? And Doug is like, nah, I just didn't expect for her to move on so fast. He asked Aaron what's going on with him, and Aaron is like, well, I got this freshman coming into my class, and I just don't know if I can live up to the pedestal that he's put me on. Like, you guys are tripping. Y'all don't even remember what happened to me. I got a drug bust. I got expelled. My parents don't want me no more. And y'all are sitting up here in your feelings about something that you can absolutely control. The fact that y'all sitting up here in your feelings about this is ridiculous. He tells them y'all are dumb. Like, what y'all going through is nothing compared to what I went through. So miss me with that. He basically tells Doug, you don't want to be in a relationship anyway. You got this girl who wants to keep it casual, so just keep it casual with her. You can let her do what she want to do, and you can do what you want to do. You do you, she does what she does, and just keep it pushing. Move on with your life. And he tells Aaron, you got these kids showing up to your class every single day. They have to be there. So just be the teacher that you always wanted to be and teach them in the way that you want to teach them. And they're just like completely mind blown that he has pretty much just figured them out. And then he goes on to explain to them that he made a vision board, and he put on the vision board that he was going to have relations with Anna, and their minds are completely blown. Doug's face, his mouth drops to the floor. They can't even believe what they're hearing. And he's like, yes, I had a one-night stand with Anna. I put it on a vision board and it came true. And he's telling them that they need to do a vision board so that they can manifest their dreams and aspirations. And they're still stuck like, did we just hear what we heard? He did it with Anna? For real? That didn't happen. Aaron's like, no, that can't possibly be true. And Doug's face is just like, dude, I can't believe what we just heard. So then we go on to see Anna visit Javi because I guess she feels like she can trust him and she can talk to him and she wants to further discuss her decision and what she should do. And so he opens the door and lets her in. Javi tells Anna that it's not her that's deporting him, that she's just telling the truth. And she's like, yeah, but it's a truth that can get him deported, and she doesn't want to do that. And he's like, didn't you dress up as Border Patrol for Halloween? She's like, Javi, this is not a Halloween costume. This is somebody's life we're messing around with. Like, I don't want to be the one that gets him deported and possibly tear him away from his family. And he's like, well, think about it like this. What if it was your family? What if it wasn't just a matter of somebody getting hurt? And what if it was more serious? You know, you would want justice to be served. And Anna's like, but I keep thinking about the fact that he's someone's family and he could be taken away from them, and I don't want to be responsible for that. And Javi's like, you want to be a lawyer? Well, the evidence is all right there. Your only responsibility now is to be honest and tell the truth and identify this guy. He's the one that did it, so he should suffer the consequences. And she's like, you know what? You're right. And he just can't even believe that she even agreed with him. Look at his face. Right. So then we move on to Doug, and he's on a date with another girl from his past, and they're catching up, and he's like, yeah, it's been a long time, and she's, talking to him, and next thing you know, Kiela texts him, turn around, and he sees her on her date at the same place that he's at. So he's like, oh my God, I don't know. He freezes and doesn't know what to do, but he texts her and he's like, what happened to lobster on the beach? and she's like, well, it somehow turned into drinks here. So they end up at the same place at the same time. In the back of his mind, he's like, man, I can't believe this girl is here right now. And so he's like, I'm not going to think about her. I'm just going to enjoy my date and not even think about her. So we move on to Aaron, and Aaron has decided to change locations for his class. He's put the students in a more comfortable setting, and he's changing the vibe of his class, and he's making it more of a salon vibe, as he calls it. He's going to call it the Afro Salon, and there's Reynard right up under him. He's like, you're too close, dude, move over there. So he tells them this class is going to be more about getting to know each other, and we're going to talk more about our issues, and we're going to bring up things and topics that we're not used to that may be uncomfortable, but this is the point of this class, and that's why we're in this setting. It's more intimate. So we jump back over to Doug and his date. He's trying to enjoy cocktails with his date, and Kiela's texting. Looks like a fun conversation. And he's like, it is. How's yours? And she responds, amazing. So he makes up an excuse that it's one of his residents, and so that he can continue texting her. And the girl's like, okay, yeah, go ahead, do what you need to do. He must have something important to do. Next thing you know, Kiela's like, meet me in 10 minutes at Hawkins. She walks out looking dead at him, all in his face. Next thing you know, boom, they're in there kissing, making out. And he's like, I know this was better than lobster. And she's like, shut up. So we know where that's going, right? So Anna's back at the police station to positively identify the young kid who was driving in the car that hit her, and the cop tells her to have a seat and wait for the other cop. And while she's sitting there, she's just looking around at the different people, and she's like noticing something. There's just something that's a little different that's going on in the police station. Every person that walks past her is a person of color or a black person or a brown person. And so she's just sitting there waiting, but she can't help but notice that everybody that walks past her is someone of color. And it dawns on her that this is a very serious decision that she's about to make, and she's about to cost this young boy possibly his livelihood and his life. So the cop comes out and tells her, I'm ready for you to come on back to identify the guy so he could be processed, and she just freezes. So she gets home and everybody's like, what happened? Tell us what happened. And she says, I decided not to identify him. I didn't tell on him. And so Zoe's like, what? Oh, I didn't think you would lie to the police. So they're all shocked and Nomi's all excited and happy. She's like, not only am I shocked, but I'm also happy that you took my advice. And Anna's like, actually, Javi's advice is what made me take your advice. And so they're super shocked at that. And they're like, what? Javi told you? Super conservative Javi told you not to identify the guy? And she's like, no, he absolutely told me to identify him. He told me I had every right to turn him in for what he did. But then she was like, but at the end of the day, it was my decision to not turn him in. She goes on to mention how she saw so many people of color being processed at the police station, going in and out of the police station, and that made her decision even more solid not to positively identify the boy, because he wouldn't have had a chance to live his life and pursue his dreams if she had turned him in, if he had gotten deported, and that would have been on her conscience. And so that's what made her make that decision. And so they're all telling her, brava, you made the right decision. We're glad that, you were able to decipher or discern that would have changed that boy's life forever. And so we applaud you for that. And now one day you're gonna eventually become a lawyer so that you can change laws and make things the way that they should be. And she's like, hold on, wait a minute, let's not move too fast. And so they all start enjoying their croissants and bread and toasting each other and having fun and everything. And so she goes into her room, Anna goes into her room, and she's studying her law books, and guess who walks in? Vivek. Yeah, Vivek comes into her room and he has something behind his back, and she's like, well, what do you have? And he pulls out a helmet with a bow on it to give her, so when she rides scooters and she gets into another accident, she won't hurt herself. And so he does that, and then he mentions how he really wants to have another one night stand with her because it was so memorable, so good. And she was like, close the door. And he immediately shuts the door behind him. And then she looks at him and goes, no, I meant for you to be on the other side of the door. So he's like, oh, I get it. Well, that concludes another episode on Tipfinity TV. Definitely make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We will be back soon. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
To infinity and beyond.